Hello everyone, welcome back to Native Explorer. I'm Alex, your guide on this language journey. I'm excited you're here today because we're going to talk about something that can change your English learning forever: how to train your brain to think in English. This is probably one of the most powerful skills you can develop as an English learner, and it's something that not many teachers talk about enough. You might be wondering, is it really possible to think in English when it's not my first language? The answer is yes. Not only is it possible, but it's also a skill that can make your English much better. When you start thinking in English, you'll speak more smoothly, understand conversations better, and feel more confident. It's like rewiring your brain to naturally work in English mode. I've seen this transformation in thousands of my students, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to make it happen for you too. In this video, we're going to break down this skill step by step. By the end, you'll have practical tips you can use every day to make thinking in English a natural habit. Whether you're just starting out or you've been learning for years, this video will help you become a more confident English speaker. I'll share real examples from my own experience learning languages and from my students who have successfully made this transition. So let's dive in. First, let's talk about why thinking in English is so important. You might ask, isn't learning vocabulary and grammar enough? That's a great question. I used to think the same way when I first started teaching, but experience has shown me it goes much deeper. When you think in English, you become more fluent. Fluent speakers don't translate every word in their head before speaking. They simply know what to say. Thinking in English helps you speak directly without that mental translation step, making your speech more natural and smooth. Let me give you an example. When someone asks you, "How are you?" Зрение, вы не хотите подумать, в моем языке я бы сказал, ваш язык фраза, который переводится на «я нормально». That's too slow. Instead, your brain should just think, I'm good, thanks, automatically. Thinking in English also helps you respond faster in conversations. If you're still translating in your head, you might pause a lot while searching for words. This can make conversations feel awkward. But when your thoughts are already in English, you'll respond more quickly and naturally. I've noticed with my students that this alone can make the difference between being able to keep up in a conversation or feeling left behind. Next, thinking in English builds confidence. Imagine expressing yourself in English as easily as in your native language, or wouldn't that feel amazing? That's what happens when you start thinking in English. You worry less about finding the right words and focus more on sharing your ideas clearly. My student Maria told me that once she started thinking in English, her fear of speaking disappeared almost completely. Thinking in English also improves your listening skills. When your brain processes thoughts in English, understanding others becomes easier. You're not just hearing words, you're connecting ideas in the language itself. This means you'll follow conversations better and catch more details when people speak. You'll start understanding movies without subtitles and catch jokes that you would have missed before. Another benefit is that you'll start to understand cultural nuances better. Each language has its own way of expressing ideas that reflects the culture. When you think in English, you start to understand not just the words, but the worldview behind them. This leads to deeper cultural understanding and better connections with English speakers. In short, thinking in English helps you speak more smoothly, respond faster, build confidence, understand more, and connect better with English-speaking cultures. All of this leads to better communication, which is our real goal, right? Now let's explore something fascinating: how language and thought connect. What does thinking in English really mean? Is it just using English words in your head? Or is there more to it? Here's something interesting. Our thoughts are shaped by the language we use. The way we think changes depending on which language we're using at the moment. Scientists call this the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, but don't worry about the name. What matters is how it affects your English learning. Think about it. When you use your native language, your brain automatically uses familiar words and phrases. When you switch to English, your thinking patterns change too. You start seeing the world through an English lens. I experienced this myself when learning Japanese. I noticed that when thinking in Japanese, I became more aware of the relationship between people because the language requires you to consider social status when speaking. For example, imagine describing a beautiful sunset. In your native language, you might have special words for the colours or feelings, but in English, you might describe it differently. English might not have the exact same words as your language, giving you a new way to think about that sunset. Some languages have words that don't exist in English. The Portuguese word saudade means a deep longing for something absent. Finnish has kalsari kenet, which means drinking at home alone in your underwear with no intention of going out. When you think in English, you might express these concepts differently, which gives you a new perspective. This matters because thinking in English helps you connect ideas more naturally. You're not translating or searching for words. You're experiencing thoughts directly in English. This makes expressing yourself much easier. Here's a real example from my student Carlos. When he first started learning English, he would have a conversation like this in his head. English speaker asks, "How was your weekend?" And Carlos's brain thinks, "Okay, how was your weekend means, ¿Cómo estuvo tu fin de semana?" I would answer, "Estuvo bien, fui al cine," which means, "It was good, I went to the cinema." Then after a long pause, Carlos says, "It was good, I went to cinema." After practicing thinking in English, his brain worked like this. English speaker asks, "How was your weekend?" And Carlos's brain immediately thinks in English, "It was great, I saw that new superhero movie." So Carlos responds immediately, "It was great, I saw that new superhero movie." The conversation flows naturally without those translation delays. Think of each language as a different way to solve life's puzzle. When you think in English, you see the pieces fit together more smoothly. You notice patterns in how English works, which helps you use it better. Did you know research shows that people who think in the language they're speaking tend to be more fluent and better at solving problems? Bilingual people who can think in multiple languages even show better cognitive flexibility and creativity. The more you think in English, the easier it becomes to express yourself clearly and quickly. So the connection between language and thought is powerful. When you think in English, your brain becomes more flexible. You process and share ideas faster, and you feel much more confident when speaking. You'll even notice that your personality might feel slightly different when thinking in English. Many of my students say they feel more outgoing or expressive in English than in their native language. Now that we understand why thinking in English matters and how it works in your brain, let's get to the practical part. How do you actually start thinking in English? The good news is that you don't need to completely change your thinking overnight. Small, consistent steps will help you build this habit. Here are some simple ways to begin. Start by describing things around you in English. Look at objects, people, and situations in your environment and describe them in your mind. For example, if you're at home, look at something simple like a book or a chair and describe it. This is a blue chair. It's in the corner of my room. It looks comfortable and has wooden legs. You can describe anything. Your food, your clothes, people walking by, or the weather. Just practice forming English sentences about what you see. I recommend starting with a specific time each day for this exercise. Maybe during your morning coffee or tea, look around and describe 5 things you see. As this becomes easier, you can do it more often throughout your day. My student May from China told me she started by describing her breakfast each morning. This is hot green tea. These are rice noodles with vegetables. The bowl is white with blue flowers. Within a month, she was thinking in English for much longer periods. Try to think in English while doing everyday tasks. When you're cooking, cleaning, or traveling to work, narrate your actions in your mind using English. While cooking dinner, think, "I need to cut these vegetables," or "I'm boiling water for pasta." If you're walking down the street, think about what you see. "That dog is very cute," or "The sky is getting cloudy." These small everyday thoughts help your brain practice using English naturally. Choose one daily activity to start with. Maybe your morning routine, your commute, or making dinner. Once that feels comfortable, add another activity. Soon you'll find yourself thinking in English during many parts of your day without even trying. This might sound strange, but talking to yourself in English is extremely effective. When you're alone, try saying out loud what you're doing. In the morning, you might say, "I'm brushing my teeth now." Next, "I need to get dressed. I think I'll wear my blue shirt today." Speaking out loud helps your brain connect thoughts and words more strongly. It's also great practice for pronunciation and new vocabulary. I do this myself when learning a new language. I'll narrate what I'm doing while cooking. Now I'm chopping the onions. Next, I'll heat some oil in the pan. I need to add the spices. Even just 5 minutes of this practice each day makes a huge difference. If you feel shy talking to yourself, pretend you're making a YouTube video explaining what you're doing. This can make it feel more natural and even fun. One of the most powerful tools is immersion, surrounding yourself with as much English as possible. Watch movies, TV shows, and YouTube videos in English. Listen to podcasts, songs, and audiobooks in English. Start with content you enjoy. Maybe a TV show about your favorite hobby or a podcast on topics you love. Try listening without subtitles and see how much you understand. This constant exposure helps your brain get used to English patterns, making it easier to think in English naturally. Here's a powerful technique. After watching a TV show or listening to a podcast, try to summarize what you heard in English, either out loud or in your head. This forces your brain to process and organize information in English. I recommend creating an English environment hour each day where everything you do is in English. The videos you watch, the music you listen to, the articles you read, and even your own thoughts. This dedicated immersion time accelerates your progress tremendously. If possible, practice with other English speakers. This could be a language exchange partner, a friend who speaks English, or online language communities. Real conversations force your brain to think quickly in English. If you don't have easy access to English speakers, use language exchange apps or online forums. Even a few minutes of practice each day makes a big difference. Something my students find helpful is joining conversation groups on apps like Meetup, Discord, or HelloTalk. These platforms connect you with other English learners or native speakers who want to practice. Even just 30 minutes of conversation practice once or twice a week can dramatically improve your ability to think in English. Another option is to find an accountability partner. Another English learner who shares your goal. You can check in with each other regularly, practice together, and share your progress. Having someone else on this journey with you makes it more enjoyable and helps you stay consistent. Writing is another powerful way to develop English thinking. Start a simple journal where you write a few sentences in English each day. Write about what you did, how you felt, or what you're planning. Writing makes you organize your thoughts in English and helps reinforce new words and grammar patterns. Don't worry about mistakes. The goal is to practice thinking in English, not to be perfect. As you continue writing, you'll notice English thoughts coming more naturally. I suggest starting with just 3 to 5 sentences each day. Write about your day, your feelings, or your thoughts on something interesting you saw or read. As it becomes easier, you can write more. My student Ahmed started with just 3 sentences each night before bed. After 6 months, he was writing full pages without struggling at all. He said this practice helped him dream in English too. Start using English for your internal monologue, that voice in your head that comments on things throughout the day. When you're making a decision, try to think through your options in English. Should I have pasta or rice for dinner? Pasta takes longer to cook, but I really want spaghetti tonight. When you're feeling an emotion, try to label it in English. I'm feeling frustrated because this task is taking longer than I expected. This technique helps you process emotions and thoughts directly in English without translation. which is one of the deepest forms of language integration. Focus on learning common English phrases and expressions, not just individual words. These ready-made chunks of language are how native speakers actually think. Instead of learning the word consider, learn the phrase, "I'm considering whether to." This helps your brain adopt English thinking patterns more naturally. Create a collection of useful phrases for different situations, making decisions, expressing opinions, describing feelings. Then practice using these phrases in your internal thoughts. The key is consistency. Start small with just 5 to 10 minutes of focused practice daily and gradually increase. Make thinking in English a regular part of your day. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. And remember, mistakes are normal and part of learning. Even native speakers make mistakes sometimes. Learning to think in English isn't always easy. You'll face some challenges along the way, and that's completely normal. Every language learner faces these hurdles. Let's talk about common challenges and how to overcome them. One of the biggest challenges is being afraid of making mistakes. When trying to think in English, you might worry about getting things wrong or people judging you. The truth is, everyone makes mistakes when learning a language. Mistakes are not failures. They're learning opportunities. Think about when you learned your first language as a child. You made mistakes every day, but they helped you improve. Embrace mistakes as part of learning. Each mistake teaches you something new, and over time, you'll make fewer of them. The only way to improve is to practice, even if it's not perfect at first. I always tell my students to adopt what I call the 2-year-old mindset. Have you ever noticed how fearlessly young children speak? They try new words and phrases without worrying about being perfect. They just want to communicate. Try to channel that same fearlessness in your English practice. Keep a mistake journal, where you note mistakes you make repeatedly. This turns mistakes from something to fear into valuable learning tools. My student Sophia did this and found that after a few weeks, she was making the same mistakes much less often. English has so many rules, exceptions, and vocabulary words. It can feel overwhelming, like there's too much to learn and you'll never catch up. Start small and focus on building a habit. You don't need to learn everything at once. Set realistic goals like thinking in English for 10 minutes daily or learning a few new words each week. Small, consistent steps are more effective than trying to do everything at once. Remember the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Learning English is the same way. Instead of trying to master everything, focus on one small area at a time. One effective approach is to master islands of reliability, small phrases or expressions that you know perfectly and can use confidently. For example, learn to think fluently about your daily routine, your favorite hobby, or introducing yourself. Once that island feels solid, build another one. Over time, these islands connect, and suddenly you're thinking in English about many topics. It's natural to fall back into your comfortable native language, especially when you don't know a word in English. This can slow down your progress in developing English thinking. Keep practicing consistently. Start with simple thoughts like what you'll eat for breakfast or how your day is going. When you don't know a word, try to describe it in English instead of switching languages. For example, if you don't know umbrella, think the thing that keeps me dry in the rain. A helpful technique is the no translation rule during your practice sessions. If you don't know a word, challenge yourself to explain it in English using words you do know. This builds the crucial skill of working around vocabulary gaps, which all language learners need. You can also try wearing a special bracelet or rubber band on your wrist as a reminder. Whenever you notice yourself switching back to your native language during your designated English thinking time, gently move the bracelet to your other wrist. This increases your awareness of language switching. My student Paolo used a smartphone timer app. He would set it to vibrate every 30 minutes as a reminder to check which language he was thinking in. If it wasn't English, he would switch back. After a few weeks, he found he was thinking in English for much longer periods without reminders. You might feel you don't have enough chances to practice English, especially if you don't live in an English-speaking country. Create your own practice opportunities. Join online communities, use language apps, watch English videos, or talk to yourself. Remember, even listening to English media helps train your brain to process the language. In today's connected world, English is everywhere. You just need to know where to look. Follow English speakers on social media, join English-speaking groups related to your hobbies, or find online games where you can chat with others in English. Change the language settings on your phone, social media accounts, and other devices to English. This simple change creates many mini practice opportunities throughout your day. Create an English corner in your home, a designated space where you only think and speak English. This could be a specific chair, your desk, or even just during your shower time. When you're in that space or doing that activity, commit to thinking only in English. Sometimes it feels like you're not improving fast enough, which can be discouraging. Be patient and celebrate small wins. Progress takes time and is often slower than we expect. Notice and appreciate small improvements, understanding a movie better, thinking in English for longer periods, or having a short conversation without translating. These small victories add up to big progress over time. Remember that language learning isn't linear. It happens in bursts and plateaus. You might feel stuck for weeks, then suddenly notice a significant improvement. This is normal. Track your progress with a simple chart or journal. Each week, rate your comfort level with thinking in English on a scale of 1 to 10. Over months, you'll see the overall trend moving upward, even if there are some dips along the way. My student Tarek created a progress jar. Every time he successfully thought in English for 30 minutes, or understood something that used to confuse him, he would write it on a small piece of paper and put it in the jar. On days when he felt discouraged, he would read a few notes from the jar to remind himself how far he'd come. Sometimes the challenge isn't just the language, but how English speakers organize their thoughts, which might be different from your native language's patterns. Study not just the language, but also how English speakers express ideas. Watch interviews, read blogs, and listen to podcasts where English speakers discuss their thoughts. Notice the structure of their arguments, how they tell stories, and how they express emotions. Pay attention to the connectors and transitions English speakers use, words like however, therefore, on the other hand. These signal relationships between ideas and are crucial for organizing thoughts in an English way. Now that you know how to start thinking in English and overcome challenges, let's talk about how to keep this habit going long term. Consistency is the key to improving any skill. You don't need hours of practice daily. Regular, short practice sessions are much more effective. Create specific small goals you can reach. For example, I'll think in English for 5 minutes every morning, or I'll describe my lunch in English today. Small goals are easier to accomplish, which gives you a sense of success. These little victories keep you motivated and add up to big improvements over time. One effective approach is to use the tiny habits method developed by behavior scientist B.J. Fogg. The idea is to make your new habits so small that it's almost impossible to fail. For example, commit to thinking in English for just 30 seconds after brushing your teeth. Once that becomes automatic, you can gradually extend the time. My student Hiroshi started with the tiny goal of thinking in English while waiting for his coffee to brew each morning. About 2 minutes. Because it was so easy, he never missed a day. After a month, he naturally extended this practice to his entire morning routine without feeling pressured. Make thinking in English part of your daily life, like brushing your teeth or drinking coffee. Connect it to something you already do every day. For example, think in English while taking a shower, waiting for the bus, or walking your dog. When it becomes part of your routine, you'll do it automatically without extra effort. I recommend using what psychologists call habit stacking, attaching your new habit to an existing one. For instance, after I pour my morning coffee, I will describe my plans for the day in English. The existing habit, pouring coffee, becomes the trigger for your English thinking practice. Create a visual reminder in places where you'll see it often. A sticky note on your bathroom mirror, a note on your desk, or a reminder on your phone. These cues will help you remember to practice until the habit becomes automatic. There are many great apps and tools that can help you practice thinking in English. Apps like Duolingo, Memrise, or HelloTalk offer quick, fun ways to engage with English daily. Use these apps during short breaks in your day, while waiting in line, during a lunch break, or before bed. Even 5 minutes helps strengthen your English thinking skills. Language learning apps work best when used consistently. Set a specific time each day to use your app, maybe during your commute or right before dinner. Even better, many apps have reminder features that will notify you if you miss a day. Podcasts are also powerful tools for building English thinking habits. Find a short daily podcast, 5 to 15 minutes, on a topic that interests you. Listen to it regularly and try to summarize each episode in your head afterward in English. My student Camilla set up her smartphone to give her a daily English vocabulary word as her lock screen wallpaper. Every time she looked at her phone, she would think of a sentence using that word. Simple tools like this create multiple micro-practices throughout your day. Connect with other English learners or native speakers. This could be an online group, a language exchange partner, or a local English club. Having people to practice with makes learning more enjoyable and keeps you accountable. Sharing your progress and challenges with others who understand makes the journey less lonely and more motivating. Consider starting a Thinking in English challenge with friends who are also learning. Keep a record of your progress and celebrate improvements. Notice when you understand more of a movie, when you think in English without trying, or when conversations feel easier. You might keep a simple log. Today, I thought in English for 10 minutes without switching back to my language, or I understood 80% of that podcast episode. Seeing your progress written down reminds you how far you've come and motivates you to keep going. Create a victory jar. Every time you reach a milestone, thinking in English for 30 minutes straight, dreaming in English, etc., write it on a slip of paper and put it in the jar. On days when motivation is low, pull out a few slips to remind yourself of your progress. Our brains respond well to rewards. Create a simple reward system for your English thinking practice. After a week of consistent practice, treat yourself to something you enjoy. Maybe a favorite dessert, a movie night, or a small purchase you've been wanting. These rewards reinforce the habit and make it more likely you'll continue. Remember, consistency beats intensity. 5 minutes daily is better than 2 hours once a week. Make English a regular part of your life, and thinking in English will gradually become as natural as breathing. We've covered a lot today. We've talked about why thinking in English matters, how it connects to your brain, practical steps to start, ways to overcome challenges, and how to keep the habit going. The most important thing to remember is that thinking in English is a skill that develops over time. It won't happen overnight, but with consistent practice, you'll make progress. The more you practice, the more natural it will become. I encourage you to try the steps we discussed today, describing things around you, talking to yourself, keeping a journal, or whatever works best for you. Make these small practices part of your daily routine. Remember that learning a language has ups and downs. Some days will feel easier than others, and that's completely normal. Every step forward is progress, no matter how small. Be kind to yourself during this process. Celebrate your achievements, whether it's thinking in English for 5 minutes or understanding a conversation without translating. Each small victory brings you closer to your goal. I want to share a story that might inspire you. My student May struggled for years with her English, always translating back and forth in her head. She started practicing thinking in English for just 5 minutes each morning while making breakfast. After 3 months, she noticed something amazing. She was dreaming in English. A few weeks later, she was watching an English movie and realized she hadn't been translating at all. She was just understanding. That moment of realization brought tears to her eyes. That could be you in a few months. This journey of training your brain to think in English is one of the most rewarding parts of language learning. When English becomes not just a skill but a part of how you think and see the world, doors open that you never imagined. You'll connect with people more deeply, understand cultural nuances better, and express yourself more authentically. I believe in you. I've seen hundreds of students successfully make this transition, and I know you can too. The fact that you're watching this video shows you're committed to improving. That commitment, plus the strategies we've discussed today, is all you need to succeed. Thank you for watching today's Native Explorer video. I hope you feel motivated to start training your brain to think in English. Keep practicing, stay consistent, and remember, every day is a chance to improve a little bit. You can do this. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to Native Explorer for more English learning tips. Share in the comments how you plan to practice thinking in English. I'd love to hear your ideas and support you on this journey. In our next video, we'll talk about how to expand your vocabulary naturally through reading. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. See you in the next video. Until then, happy learning and happy exploring.